Naive and gullible, accidental drug mule, international criminal. Whatever you think of her, it's hard to imagine what the last 7 years have been like for the woman known as Cocaine Cassie. Now, the convicted drug trafficker is speaking out to set the record straight.
It was April 2017 when Australia first learned the name Cassie Sainsbury.
Morphia now on the Australian woman locked up in a Colombian prison on drug trafficking charges.
Now, the Australian woman known as Cocaine Cassie.
You have to ask, how could anyone be so naive, so gullible?
The 22-year-old suddenly thrust into the spotlight.
Cassie, how has life been inside jail?
Busted trying to fly out of Bogotá's international airport with 5.8 kilos of cocaine stashed in her luggage.
At first, I didn't even know it was drugs. I was told that I was going to be basically transporting documents.
Staring down the barrel of up to 30 years behind bars, the judge eventually accepted a plea deal, locking up Cassie for 6 years in Colombia's notorious El Buen Pastor prison.
I wouldn't wish anyone to go through everything that I've been through.
But Cassie was released early for good behaviour after 3 years. Now, back in the country, she's ready to tell her story in her new memoir, Cocaine Cassie, setting the record straight about life behind the headlines.
And Cassie Sainsbury joins us now to do just that. Cassie, what do you think Australia most misunderstands about you?
I think Australia has completely misunderstood who I am as a person. I completely understand. For years I've been portrayed as this heartless, emotionless person who didn't care about who she would hurt or anything that I was doing, which was never the fact at all. And I think that's what's hurt me the most, watching it from behind the scenes and never being able to speak out and say, well, hey, actually, it's not like that. So to be able to actually come out and finally have my 2 cents with nobody interrupting me, it's been a huge opportunity.
I suppose it comes down to why people think you did what you did. You write that you were duped into drug trafficking by a woman that you loved and trusted whose name is Wendy, and you say that she's to blame for everything. I mean, that's a big statement. In hindsight, how were you manipulated?
I was hiding my sexuality for many years. I was very sad and unhappy with my life. So when I finally found someone that I could tell all of my deepest, darkest secrets to and actually feel that I could open up and speak to her, she almost took that as an invitation to use it as the perfect way to manipulate me. So she almost had it as she corresponded with the same feelings and emotions towards me without actually directly saying it. Never directly said it, but she always indicated that it was the case. And so I was very vulnerable, and I actively wanted to seek her approval, that she would be happy with me, that I would do anything to have her good graces and her attention, because essentially it was the only person that I'd felt comfortable opening up myself to in a very, very long time.
Cassie, you write about what sounds like a pretty crazy prison experience, rotten and mouldy food with worms in it, naked women walking around with blades under their tongues. What was it like in there?
It was something that I never expected. I guess you always see on movies and in series about, these concrete cell blocks. You see fights and things, but to actually live it and be a part of those areas where there is no humanity, there's no dignity, there's no basic fundamental human rights, there's nothing. Essentially, you are a nobody and you are treated like you are a nobody. Even the same guards, sometimes they're actually worse than the inmates that you live with, to be honest. So it's to be around those conditions of the food where it wasn't edible, medication, health, anything like that, it was non-existent. So it is still a nightmare of mine that I still often dream about, but I would never wish it on anyone else.
Cassie, talking about the guards, you make a point in your book that you had to get in with the guards to survive. How did you actually do that? How did you keep on their good side? And if you upset them, what did they do?
So I always believed in doing the right thing when I was there doing my time. I knew I was there for a reason, and so there was no need for me to, I guess, go against what the rules were And that was a big part of me always being on the good side of them. So essentially, if they were to do a search or anything and they would find contraband items within the yard that I was in, everyone else would be like, damn it, you know, they've taken this, they've done this, insulting the guards for doing their job. Whereas I was always like, well, what do you expect? You know, we are in a prison, you can't have these things. And that always kept me apart from, I guess, being really rude and obnoxious to the guards. And then apart from that, I was always actively sought to be a translator within the prison. I was to help teach English to the guards. I was a bit of a tool as well with them, I guess, moving forward in their lives because everyone wanted English in their life there.
You were convicted of a serious crime, so I need to ask you, I mean, you've written this book, you're going to sell it, obviously, that's why we're talking to you. What happens to the proceeds of the book?
So when I was actually going through all this, I know very well that there's a big bubble around the proceeds of the crime. And I never wanted the money from this book anyway. This book was about having an opportunity to speak up and finally be able to put everything out on the table. So when I was trying to figure out where those proceeds would go to, I actually spoke with my partner and I said, look, I think they should go to charity. I think this book has helped me release a lot of trauma. It's helped me close a big chapter in my life. And I think anything where people buy a book, I think those proceeds should go towards other people where it could also be helpful to them. It can be used with vulnerable people, anyone who needs it.
Cassie, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.